Oh shit, it's Tom. He top 8'd again. How many top 8s is this now?
9?
I thought you said 10 the other day.
I was off by 1.
Oops. Well,
Right.
10th's coming soon. So, what's your name? What'd you play?
I got 6th place at the Omaha, Nebraska Regional, and I played Kashtira Fiendsmith.
Sweet. Why'd you decide to play that over Ryzeal?
I don't own any of the Ryzeal cards.
Excellent.
I'll probably play Ryzeal Fiendsmith if I can, because I think that's the best deck. I like it a lot.
All right.
But I think this deck is really, really good, and I really enjoy playing the Fiendsmith cards.
Cool. Let's see what you played.
So, obviously 3 Lacrima, 3 Engraver,
Crazy.
1 Lurie.
Whoa.
Standard for the Fiendsmith, like any of the pure Fiendsmith decks that you're trying to max out on. This is the best normal summon on the deck. Best engine in the game probably right now. Can go into too many decks. And then we play 3 tracks. The reason I play 3 of this as opposed to 2, like some other builds play, is this is one of the cards that lets you take a line to single-handedly out a detonator without ever activating a monster effect on field. So you want to max on it on all of these, because if you open Engraver or Tract plus Lacrima, you can essentially out a detonator as long as you can interrupt your opponent off a duo drive and keep them from getting the field spell, out it, and then you push through their board. Essentially, you get an Engraver in rotation in the grave using the tracks and the lurries and stuff. Requiem into Engraver, normal Lacrima no effect, and just make Chaos Angel. Last card, Paradise. Whole reason to play this deck. Really busted grind game card. Can out Detonator Druid Drive when they summon it. That's about it for the Fiendsmith package.
Whoa.
Next, Kashtira package with 3 Fenrir. You want this because this forces your opponent to interact with it when you special summon it. Unicorn's really good, but like it's just not quite as good as Fenrir going second. 2 Unicorn, really good. Perform well all day. Playing it was okay. I might cut it down to 2 and bump Unicorn to 3 because your opponent can just pop this with Detonator on activation, and it essentially gets you nowhere. But it does threaten leaving them on an open board and playing into a Talents. Then the 1 Birth. There's some pretty convoluted combos in this deck. And just having the ability to generate multiple bodies, even though this is a break, is really important for those. Like, there's a combo where if you open Unicorn Engraver, you can make any rank 6 you want, as well as getting to having the Agnum Day in Graveyard, along with the Lacrima, to summon back a Desiree you summoned earlier in your combo.
Very sweet.
Yep. Now, the big issue with this deck, it plays a bajillion non-engine, so we're going to go into that. 3 Fua, 3 Ash, 3 Veiler, 3 Infirm. This is like the status for like standard very good hand traps that people play 3 of. Another popular hand trap people play, Nibiru. Is not as good in this deck because it kind of interferes with the Kashtira engine. It came up a couple times where it interfered when I was playing the case tournament prior to the regional, so I decided to cut it down. This card was overperforming Ghost Ogre. I was testing Warner, and it like was just not coming up. I feel like it would have been better in the regional environment, but in the case tournament there was a bunch of Ryzeal players, and I just used that to inform my decision at the regional, even though I only played 2 Ryzeal in the regional. And then the best card in the deck, Purge. This card's insane.
Stop Ryzeal.
This is a card where if they make a duo drive and they need to add stuff, this can interact with a duo drive even if they have the field spell out. Just negates an effect that would add cards, and then if you have a trap in the graveyard, Paradise or Imperm, it destroys the monster whose effect was activated. So it can both. So it's like both worse than Ash Blossom because it doesn't prevent them from summoning from the deck, but it's better than Ash Blossom which is going to destroy the card that's activating its effect to add.
Did you like Fua in the main? I know some of the Kashtira builds don't play it.
It was really good. It came up a lot when I lost die rolls. I was thinking about 2-2 with Perulia, but I just couldn't figure out the one to keep the deck at 41.
Okay.
Last non-engine card, 2 Talents. This card was insane. They call me Triple Tactics Tom for a reason.
Would you go to 3?
I think I almost want to play 3 with this. I think this is the actively best out to a copy of Detonator in the game. You can just steal it, make Zeus, threaten their whole board.
Perfect.
Duo drive and everything. I think apart from Ultimate Slayer, this is the best card you can play to out Detonator.
Perfect. Let's see that extra deck then.
Extra. 2 Requiem. Not only does this help you play around the Unicorn Rip, but there's a lot of instances where you cycle through 2 of these in the course of a turn. This special summon is a hard once per turn, and the effect to equip is a hard once per turn, but the effect to summon from deck isn't. So during your in phase, you can Lacrima, summon one of these out, go into your main phase, tribute this off, summon another one, because you did the special summon during your opponent's in phase, and then that lets you move into another card.
Perfect. Awesome. I love Requiem. That card is sick.
SP Little Knight, obvious. Very good card for drawing game. This deck likes to grind a lot. Closed Moon, obvious. Sequence, obvious. Magnum Day. This is a card that most people don't know about in this deck. So what it lets you do is during either first turn quick effects, you can target one non-link fiend monster in your graveyard, equip, move this back to the spell trap zone as an equip card, and equip this to the fiend monster and special summon it. You use this to essentially you use a sequence to climb into a Desiree, you link the Desiree and that into this, you can out a card if you're going second, and you bring this back, equip it to the Desiree. This gives 600 times the total link rating of monsters attached to it, and you equip this, and you can equip this, and between all of these attached to 1 copy of Desiree, this boosts it by 3 times 600 plus 600 from Fiendsmith directly into 7,000 attack point piercer, which can just kill your opponent per game. Really easy to kill people who are playing Malice because they pay like a couple thousand life points already.
Were you ever worried about your Agnum Day either eating a Bestial or getting belled?
It did get belled once, and I did get Bestial once, so yeah, it does come up. We play 2 Desiree, specifically because you can send 1 copy off the trap, so a lot of your inboards involve getting the trap in rotation and having this on your inboard, so 1 gets Foolish off the trap, 1 stays on board and negates cards. Necro Clip lets you just go into the rank 6 lines with Lacrima, and then the obvious rank 6 is Waking Caesar, and lets you just play around Nib and stuff. Of course, if your opponent knows you have this, and you actually are forced to interact with your cards early. In 7, this deck plays a high density of Fiendsmith cards, and you can get a lot more light fiends into rotation by like just summoning out an engraver, detaching it for this, adding it back to hand, pitching it, adding either the trap or the spell, and then getting a Lurry into rotation, which is like an extra fiend body. MVP of the day, Lars.
This card is sweet. What do you have to say about Lars?
So, the reason why this card is played in this build now, as opposed to what it was before, is this card cannot be targeted with monster effects so long as it has material. If your opponent summons X Rizal and dumps Mereological Aggregator, they can't target this card and interact with it. Multiple instances where people went Chainlink 1X, Chainlink 2 Mereological Aggregator to play around Ash, and then I forced to negate their own X if they play that wrong, so read your opponent's cards, please. But this card is insane. In response to any card or effective activation, you can detach the materials from this card, target a face-up card your opponent controls, and negate its effects. It's exactly like Hot Red, but you have to do it directly in response to an effect activation. I've hit Talents with this, Cross Out with this, Call By with this. I've hit a bunch of spells and traps with this because people just think it's in response to monster effects. It's in response to any effect.
Very broken card.
Sky Crisis, deck grinds, you want this card. Also very prevalent out to Detonator. If you hand trap them on their duo drive, they can't access the field spell. This is like your best out to Detonator. This can also attack over large monsters, especially if you have the Kashtira field spell. But it cannot activate its own effects. So that's a really important thing to keep in mind, is that if you want to summon this first game action, be careful about activating the Kashtira field spell first if you want to eventually resolve its effects. Divine Arsenal Zeus, just play a bunch of Exceeds, so this comes up.
Take Detonator, make Zeus smile.
And the last one, this is the most prevalent one, Chaos Angel. This card is very hard to out for Rising. If you make it with a light and a dark, they pretty much have to hard draw impermanence or a main deck spell or trap out like Thrust into Talents to deal with this card if you make it with a light and a dark. It's also really prevalent going second because you can do the line I was talking about with Engraver plus Lacrima, where you essentially just like have Lurry in the graveyard activates. No cards on field, they can't pop with Detonator. Requiem, tribute off his cost. No cards on field. Engraver, normal Akrama. Anything there, if you do not have anything, alright. Contact Secure Abyss, made with 2 lights, unaffected by Molten's activated monster effects, so they can't like pop anything with Detonator in response to it. And then you just attempt to banish their dead with it.
Perfect. All right, let's see the side.
This card was super duper overperforming across the days, but it's basically because I kept playing Malice and Labyrinth a lot. I played against, I think, like 3 Malice opponents at the tournament. Very good into that matchup. You can do this against their field spell because their field spell banishes from field or grave. If they want to mess with you on your turn, you can do this in response to a white Binder's Effect activation. Along with that, in the mirror match, if you're playing against a Fiendsmith pile, when they Lacrima to summon back Requiem on your turn to get the trap in rotation, you can just bell that effect. It shuffles the Lacrima back in deck so they don't have access to that in the grind game, which they would otherwise summon back out off the Requiem, which makes the matchup a lot more in your favor. This can also negate the Ryzeal quick play spell. I didn't really side this in against Ryzeal at any point, but
not bad to hit their follow-up.
Can be useful in that application.
I'm a big Bell fan. That card is crazy.
It's really good against Labyrinth. That's what I mostly came up against. I think I belled like 4 big welcome activations between like the 2 days that I was playing this deck and the 2 Labyrinth opponents.
Rip
so
Lab.
Very good. Teemo Charmy Perulia. This is a slightly better into Ryzeal than Fualos. They can play around Fualos pretty well, but it's harder for them to play around this card. They almost always have to give you at least 2 draws with this card unless they hard open ice.
What made you decide 2 instead of 3?
They're just like no bloom in the side deck.
Okay.
And in terms of siding patterns, most of my main deck already has cards in it that I actively want to keep in against Ryzeal. So there's only a few cards I want to side out. So these come in. 2 Lancia, 4 Malice. Malice is the next hardest matchup just because of White Binder looping in and out of play and banishing all your cards from your graveyard. This card is very, very good against that matchup. Hypothetically, against Labyrinth, you can side this in and prevent evenly matched, which is also sometimes kind of a problem for this deck, but not as often. It kind of depends on how you want to set up your board. Most of the times your board can play around evenly matched, but I think that's the only other applications that come in besides the Malice matchup. It's pretty decent against some of the V-Seal decks, but I wouldn't side it in. I would rather just side Bell in against those matchups. Lightning Storms.
Gas.
Yet again, it's for primarily the Labyrinth matchup. I have just so many dead cards against that matchup in my main deck. I needed more cards to side against it. So it's primarily for that matchup. Gonna pop and destroy their back row. And also has some application across other matchups, just threatening all the attack resistant monsters you want to control. It can bait out a Terahertz that dumps the spell trap negate activation and do other stuff like that. Bait out back row activation from Malice, so they are denied some interruptions and also under the threat of getting talents after activating some monster effects. I sided the second Paradise. Alright, this is really prevalent in the mirror match. In the mirror match, it's really common for both players to try and access a Light Dark Chaos Angel because both decks, this deck and the opponent's deck, have a hard time outing it. If they can poke over it for damage, but the game becomes really grindy at that point. One of the ways you play around that in the mirror match is you can make it M7, add back an Engraver you brought into rotation, pitch the Engraver, search this, and then if you're able to get another Light Fiend body onto the field, you can just fuse into the sequence Desiree, and then on your opponent's turn after they pass back, when they pass back to you with Light Dark Chaos Angel on the field, you just wait for them to take a game action, and then send the Chaos Angel to the graveyard for some trap effects. Also, side this for the Labyrinth matchup because there's a bunch of dead cards on the deck. And then, along with that, we play 2 Sanctum and 2 D-Barrier. Malice matchup, Ryzeal matchup, as well as maybe the Mirror sometimes, and then Trap Trick. Just to conserve on space for the side deck instead of playing playsets of these. I didn't really have room for trust in this build because there's just so few normal spells I want to access in my main deck. So I decided just to go up on the trap count on the deck as opposed to playing Thrust for these cards.
Sweet. Perfect. Anything else you want to add? Any shout-outs?
Shout out to all the boys for playtesting me. Vincent Giacobi playtested a ton with me, so I had a pretty good grasp of what the other decks in the format did, as well as driving out to all the events.
Sweet. Shout out to Matt for losing his voice.
Yep.
Rip Matt. All right. Thanks, Tom. Hopefully 10 will come soon.